All right, welcome everybody to the May 2021 Idea Share. My name is Beth Golick from Key Ministry, and my colleague Catherine Boyle is, there she is waving with a red background there. And anyway, we just want to hear what is going on with everybody these days, what's new in your ministry area. It's been a month since we've last had the opportunity to chat. So who would like to go first? Okay, Meekins, go for it, waving their hands.
We have had a wonderful couple of weeks for ministry, and I just need to share with you guys. So picture this, special needs children dressed up as superheroes and princesses, and there's an auditorium set up with a red carpet runway and decorations, folding chairs on either side of the runway filled with parents and loved ones. An assistant for each family to help the children navigate where they have the path that they have to take, right? We all need that. And a table set up for each family behind the chairs to enjoy a Chick-fil-A dinner. And it's like Tim Tebow prom for younger kids. And so this happened on Saturday with a group called Zach Speaks. And Zachary has autism, and his parents have just started this organization to raise money so that kids that are kind of like in a interim between services can get those services to continue, like especially ABA, because that's really important. And sometimes there's an insurance issue, you know, all that. So anyway, Zach Speaks. I used to be on the board a couple of years ago, but they put this fashion show up on Saturday, and it was the cutest thing. I wish you all could have been there because you would have loved it, every single one of you. So that happened on Saturday, so that was really cool. And then Catherine, you would especially enjoy this. So we go to a leaders meeting yesterday, Sunday morning, and what is the topic that the main speaker talks about is mental health and self-care. And I just thought of you all over the place, and I thought, okay, this is the coolest because our church gets it. Our leadership is getting the importance of mental health. So let me just briefly say the onset of this little booklet that they gave us that they want us to read, and they put them out like every 3 months, you know, with new information for leaders. So in light of the stresses, pressures, and losses associated with COVID this past year and the burdens you are carrying for yourselves, your families, and those you lead, we thought this might be a good time to remind you of the importance of self-care in the life of a leader. And so they gave us these points: set boundaries, refueling self and recharging batteries, be aware of your own mindset, take time to reflect, enjoy healthy relationships, and embrace community. This is for leaders. Have a mentor, be in the Word, have healthy personal practices like getting enough sleep, getting good nutrition, things like that, and have a healthy marriage if you're married. So if you're struggling in any of these areas, talk to someone. And I was bursting at the seams sitting at that table thinking, you guys get it. And it's so exciting. So I had to share that with you guys.
I love your excitement is contagious. This is really exciting. So thank you for sharing. Catherine, do you want to say anything else about?
Is there a link to the information, or was it put anywhere on your church website?
I wonder, I bet the lead booklet is, I'll find it and send it to you.
Okay, that would be great.
For you.
Awesome.
That's awesome. And actually, I consider all of you on this roundtable part of my support group, if you will. So thank you, Tom and Julie, for sharing that. And I mean, I can just tell you guys are fired up. I love it. I love it. All right, who can follow that? Yes, Doc. Unmute though.
There. I'm having technical difficulties now. Yeah, so I've got just all kinds of exciting things going on, and just super cool how God is working with things. So first, we're just super excited. This weekend we're having our first in-person respite in 18 months, so we're very excited about that. We've got 4 events we're doing, 1 on Friday, 3 on Saturday. We're doing a church on the Missouri side, so super excited there. We actually still have a couple spots left but still trying to get volunteers to help out there. But we're trusting God to provide everything there. But we're just excited to be back in person and be serving people. Yesterday, we had a very fun event. We had our Sloth 0.3K run that a group did for us as a fundraiser. It was a great event. God blessed it. They said everyone had so much fun. They want to do it annually. And it's a business club. They actually have clubs throughout the country. They want to do it nationally next year. And there was a bank that was there and they want to sponsor it. So just a cool thing. So we'll see the Sloth 0.3K run coming hopefully to a city near you next year, and hope everyone can be part of that. But the thing that has been really cool, where God's really worked, one of the things that's been heavy on my heart, and honestly, for me, it's been one of our visions for SOAR, maybe in 5 or 10 years. But God started laughing at me and saying, no, not quite. It's going to be sooner. And my vision is to be doing missions trips for families with disabilities. There are many organizations doing missions trips for special needs, but I haven't found a single organization in the world that does missions trips taking individuals with special needs to go serve others with special needs. And so in the last 3 weeks, I've had 2 opportunities come up. One was introduced to a lady from Belize who just happens to be from Kansas City, was in town for 2 weeks, had an in-person meeting with her. God told her several years ago to sell everything she had, cash out her 401k, and she has 3 adopted kids with special needs. Her and her husband moved to Belize, bought 50 acres of jungle. They had to use a machete to cut through to see it unbuilt. And they have now developed 5 acres that they are creating a special needs family camp that is faith-based, but they have no idea how to do a camp. So we're partnering with them to show them how to do a camp. They're going to have the buildings finished coming up in December. And so hopefully within a year, we're going to be able to take families and start going down there on missions trips. 2 days after that meeting, I had someone contact me on LinkedIn, saw my contacts and said, we need to talk. She's also from Kansas City, and met with her. She is a travel agent who specializes in providing travel for families with disabilities and loves what we're doing, and said, we're going to handle all your travel and we'll do it at a discounted rate to help your families go. And then last week, a gentleman contacted me. His name's Joseph, from Kenya. And he's created a foundation called Hub for Hope. And basically it is SOAR in the middle of Africa. He is helping churches create ministry. He's doing sports things. He wants to create a camp. We're going to come alongside him, create a camp and do all that. On top of it, a girl who's been working with me for 6 years, actually 8 years. She's like a daughter. She knows everything in and out for SOAR. She's doing a missions trip through Kenya for the entire summer, 15 weeks this summer. She's only going to be 42 miles from where he's at. I've already worked out plans where they're going to be able to spend a weekend. She's going to go there and be my feet on the ground. So hopefully within 2 years, we'll be taking missions trips there. So just real excited, and hopefully, all your groups can partner with us. If you got families that want to go, we'll be able to go. So it's going to be cool how we're going to be able to take our families and go share Jesus with them and other people in both Belize and Africa, and hopefully more places.
Wow, Doc, that is amazing. God is so good. What cool opportunities, and how exciting for you to kind of be in the middle of that as all these really cool coincidences are happening. So I was air quoting there in case anybody missed that.
Hey, can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah.
So Doc, I know like you and probably others of you guys on the call, you get contacted from people everywhere. And like last week, I was messaging with a man who has a huge evangelistic ministry in India. He's looking for help getting wheelchairs. So I sent him some information. The week before, I was contacted by somebody from Fiji, of all places. But I mean, if you guys have traveled internationally, you know that, people with visible disabilities, and I'm sure hidden disabilities as well, are not treated like everybody else in the really poor countries. And so I mean, my opinion, this is just a huge evangelistic opportunity for the church to come alongside families with disability.
Yeah, in both of these locations. So yeah, exactly. Thank you for saying that, Catherine. So disabilities in foreign countries, especially these two, it's either viewed as a sin or a curse or evil spirits that is the result of it. And it's a social stigma. So families will actually hide the individuals. In Belize, they were telling me stories how the families will dig holes in the ground and throw their child into the hole, or they will tie their child to a tree, and so their child, while they go to work, and just completely hide them. In Belize, these kids have never had occupational therapy or anything, so these kids have actually been curled into balls because they're so tight and have never gotten treatment. So we want to see how we can start getting some occupational therapy and things down there for them with that. Same thing in Kenya and Africa there, where these individuals aren't having anything going on there. I've got another group in Iraq that I'm working with that hopefully will have something there too. In Iraq, with the Muslim faith, it's considered again a sin due to the mom having with that, and they throw the child with a disability out of the community, outside the outskirts of the town, and they burn the mom at the stake. And if mom survives, she's thrown out of town. So there's this orphanage in Iraq that I'm working with that has all these kids with severe, profound disabilities and severely disfigured women who have survived the burning, who are desperate for help. And so, it's repeated stories like that throughout the country with it. So yeah, throughout the world, I should say. But yeah, we are very fortunate here in the United States. Anywhere else outside the United States, for the most part, it is not viewed well at all if you've got an individual with disability.
Wow, thanks for sharing. Who else has something to share? Ryan.
I'll go. Even though everyone's like got this gut wrenching moment. Thanks, Doc. So, no, we got a couple things I just want to highlight real quick. Last week we launched a new curriculum series on the armor of God. It's a 6-week series. I'll drop the link in the chat in just a second. Really excited about that. And probably about a week, we'll launch a series on grief. One of the things that we realize, as all of you know, is that people have just experienced an unbelievable amount of grief over the last year. So just really wanted to address that and look at how God wants us to grieve well. And so I'm excited we'll launch that series, I think, in about a week. But something that God put on my heart is just kind of I don't know if it's outside the box or not, but the idea that churches aren't really accessible unless they have a universal size changing table, an adult size changing table. So I threw a poll up in the group, Facebook group, and I was really surprised in a good way that it was 50% of churches with disability ministries that answered the poll said that they have a universal or adult size changing table in their church. If not, it was just, or they had something like a massage table that's foldable that they could put up in their churches. So I was encouraged by that, but I went back and thinking about the statistics that we kind of all use. The 80 to 90% of churches don't have any form of disability ministry. So I'm guessing that probably 80 to 90% of churches on the whole don't have a universal size changing table at their church. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just feel like God's kind of challenging me to make that available to churches that want it. So working on an idea to maybe create a DIY type of build your own changing table, like blueprints. And I want to try to raise a lot of scholarship money for churches so they can build their own, and we can help them pay for that. So again, this is very much in the works, but I'm excited to kind of tackle this because I don't really see anybody else tackling this issue for churches. And I've heard from some that they don't take the chance of going to church because they know that it's probably not an option for them to have a universal changing table at their disposal. So many just don't go to church. So I want to remove that obstacle for churches. Again, I don't know exactly how this will play out, but something that God's put on my heart, and I would love to help churches with that. So I'm hoping to have more info on that soon. I've reached out to a couple different people for creation of blueprints. I've got
Ryan, we need to talk. I just helped
Okay.
a church who just built their own adult changing table, which is beautiful.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure they'd give us their plans.
Sweet. And we've built 4 at our church. So we have 4 in our facility, which is awesome. But the facility manager at our church just builds everything without blueprints. He's that type of person. So yeah, I'd love to talk offline. Thanks, Doc.
Yeah.
So Ryan, this is a coincidence because coincidentally this morning, we were talking about this in our staff meeting. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing
Cool.
what you come up with about this. There's a question in the chat. Would staff and volunteers use it, or is this for family only? So maybe this is a good time to have a little discussion about what the kind of the rules are at our different churches and different ministries. So Ryan, do you want to start with how it works at your church?
Like I mentioned, we have 4 in different places in our building. 2 of them are primarily used in our day program spaces, so that would be used by staff. But the other 2 are in our 2 family restrooms. So it's just, you've got the family restroom. It's a lot larger, a lot more space for it. I know not every church has a ton of space or even has family restrooms, but those are just available for families to use as needed in those 2 different areas. So I'd say it's both at our facility, but wouldn't necessarily be the same at other churches.
All right. Could anybody else share how they use? Yeah, Doc.
Yeah, so for ours, we're the same. We have 1, and it's available for families to use, during services if they need to. During events, it's our staff and volunteers. I have a full medical team that runs all of at our events, and usually I have our medical team that assists with all the changes and that. And then during weekend services, if we need to use it, we'll have volunteers help, but most of the time on the weekends, it's going to be parents using it.
Okay.
I got a question for those of you that have this at your church. Do you have signage on your restrooms that say that you have one? When you go places and there's like baby changing table, you could like see it on the door. Like, do you have signage that says it's available, or do people like discover it once they arrive?
Yeah, so for us, we actually have it designated as a special needs or disability restroom. And so it's specifically only for our individuals with disabilities. It's a bigger restroom. There's just 1 toilet, and then the changing table as well. So that restroom's completely set aside for only our families and individuals with disabilities.
Ours are just family restrooms. So
Yeah, we have an overabundance of restrooms in our facility that are used, like they're like segments, like different populations kind of use different parts of them. And so I was trying to think through like what this would look like and how to message that. So I would like to get something like this. We have some older kids, they're getting older and they need a little bit more accessibility for sure.
Yeah, and the conversation at my church actually started out talking about could we get like a toilet or some toilets that are like just a little bit taller, because even if you have, and right now I'm kind of talking more like elderly population, but even the grab bars, if the toilet's too low, it's kind of impossible to get up. So and let's see. So Carrie just added in the chat, this is incredible, Ryan, which I think it is. Larger changing tables are much needed. I think the cost of purchasing one manufactured keeps churches from buying them. So we know that can be an obstacle. Yeah, we often have people in our congregations who are incredibly talented and could potentially build something. Way to take that prompting and run with it. I agree. And Ryan says that ordering from a catalog can cost up to $9,000. Wow. And then Bronwyn shares, who knew we'd be talking so much about toilets today? Ronwin shares, I think you can install a toilet seat on top of a toilet bowl that makes it taller and more accessible. Yeah, I mean, I think these are fixes that our churches can do. And so, yeah, we just need to be thinking about it and, maybe engaging people in our congregation that have the talent to make it happen. So, all right, any more toilet talk before we move on to another topic? What'd you talk about today? Well, but it's important. I mean, it's seriously, like, if this is what's keeping people from really being able to be part of a church, let's remove that barrier, that obstacle.
Let's say too, sorry to continue the toilet talk.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
I'm also not sorry. I've also talked, with other families, with kiddos with autism and sensory things. And hand dryers are another thing that is really inaccessible in a restroom. Like we have, like I said, we have an overabundance of restrooms. We have all kinds of choices. But there are times where we go places, and if it's only a hand dryer, like we might not be using the restroom. So it's like things like that, depending on when your church was built and, kind of what facilities you have, like all those things are so impactful for a family. And it is kind of crazy to think about, like something like that could, hinder attendance or connection or whatever. But yeah, hand dryers, toilets, changing tables. It's like the basic necessities that, I know for myself, like families, we don't want to have to, like everywhere we go, we don't have to be thinking about, oh gosh, what if he has to go to the bathroom? So
yeah,
just something to consider.
I remember, this is probably TMI, but I remember when my kids, I have 3 boys, and when they were little and I would be traveling, like driving cross country with them or whatever, there was one rest area that had in the women's room, like a little tiny toilet in a stall with a big one. And that was like a lifesaver at a certain point when they were really little. Anyway, that's way too much information for you guys. All right. Who else has something to share? I have something to share, but I'll wait until others have a chance. And we're on 2 screens now, so like unmute yourself and speak up if I don't see you.
I have something. My name is Ellen Gardner. Hey, I'm with the Tim Tebow Foundation, and I'm specifically with a department called Shine On. And Shine On has been around for a couple years, and we've had established relationships with so many incredible organizations. So when I came on board, I was a disability ministry director for many, many years. And I'm a mom of a really amazing kid who happens to live with autism and lives in a group home. So when I came on board, I thought, let's get these resources. I didn't even know about most of them. And they would have really made such a huge impact on getting so many resources to these families and improving the ministry that we had or have. So we have created a mobile and a web app that launches tomorrow tonight to Shine churches, and then on Thursday to the general public. So it's just a real honor just to use this platform that we have to kind of shine a light on a path to these great organizations such as Key Ministry and Ability Ministry and 9 or 10 others. But this is just the beginning. So we're excited to see where God leads us. And I love joining this and learning from all of you. And you guys feel like home. And so thanks.
Thank you, Ellen. And we're so glad that you have been here and an active part of our roundtables, because you've been a great resource as well.
Thanks,
So,
Beth.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited. Who else?
I just wanted to thank all you guys who have gone a little bit before all of us in California and have kind of moved forward with the reopening a little bit more. Yesterday, I was able to do some backyard church with a family. They have 4 kids. They live in like the next town over, and I brought some art and games, and we ended up having like a water gun fight. Although I was the only one unarmed, I didn't have a water gun, but they were all against me. It was fine. It was delightful and great, and it's just fun to really connect with kids in kind of a different way, outside. And we've done kind of individual respite on our campus at church outdoors. We've done it for individual families, but to go to someone's house straight and to be in their space, in their backyard, and the kids are just like loving it. They're like, this is awesome. When are you going to come again? I was like, well, we can do it again. And so I've been able to get a lot of the inspiration from you guys who have been able to kind of connect a little more. So thank you. It was a really, I think, meaningful experience, for the family and for me and the kids. And yeah, it was a great day. I came home like totally soaked. I got my car. I was like, just like completely soaked. The mom's like, "You need a towel?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." Like, it was warm yesterday. I was like, "I'm good." But yeah, it was very fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I always love to hear Bronwyn and her group have just been so creative in being able to still continue to do something when they still have so many restrictions. So kudos to you, Bronwyn, and thanks for sharing. Yeah, and thank you. We're all in different phases, so it's really been helpful to learn from each other. So in addition to my role at Key Ministry, I think a lot of you know, I also am the director of the special needs ministry at my church here in the Cleveland area. And, we've been open to some extent for a long time in a reservation system and blah, blah, blah. But we are really hoping to kind of go back to normal in June. So in a few weeks, so no reservation system. Our kind of the difficult part right now is our families are coming back faster than our volunteers. But we're really, the church and the leadership has really come behind that, and it's actually being addressed from the pulpit. So that's kind of cool because that doesn't usually happen. But I just want to just share for a second, there's just been some really cool opportunities and connections going on right now. Coincidences, if you will, again, air quotes, just really awesome things. And we have families that are coming for the first time that are, hearing about us from whatever way. I mean, everything from the fact that we hosted Inclusion Fusion Live here. It's just all these really cool things are happening and new people are coming. And the fact that we're kind of reopening, if you will, in June, even though we're still open, but it's giving our children's ministry, which our special needs ministry falls under, the opportunity to really almost start from scratch. And so we're redoing our volunteer training, and it's given us this opportunity that we would not have had otherwise. So I'm going to call it a pandemic blessing that we're going to get to kind of start things almost from scratch. And I feel like we're prepared and in a different mindset than we were a year ago when we were just kind of going with the flow. So I just wanted to share that. Also, all of a sudden there's all these connections being made and people that are kind of being put in my path that it's just really cool, between Inclusion Fusion Live and other Key Ministry things and here at the church, and just, it's really cool. But it's kind of, like, I feel like my brain is scrambled eggs right now. There's just like a lot of different, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? When God's at work, like all these different things are coming in. So I just wanted to pose a question, because suddenly I've had in my path from two families who each have a 19-year-old son, who are each coming to our church for the first time. In both cases, the sons have, like, they're on the autism spectrum, like Asperger's type, would not be a good fit for my teen and adult class because it's more children's ministry-ish than they would need. But they both have like sensory issues, a lot of anxiety. The worship service is perhaps too much, like they need to have a little bit of a break. And I just feel like, okay, suddenly we're getting like a more neurodiverse population. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, okay, there's a really cool new thing happening here. How can I help? How can our church be a welcoming environment? So I'm just curious if any of you have like any advice. Do you even know what I'm asking?
I think,
Oh, you can go
no,
ahead.
go ahead, Sarah. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I'm from Arkansas, and my church, one thing that we do, and I think this could hopefully be maybe an easy fix if you guys have a spare room, but we always have a room where the service is being streamed, but to where it's for anyone who, and I would say a lot of our individuals that go are exactly what you described, it, or maybe just even have social anxiety alone, and it gives them a place to still be a part, but still physically be a part if they need to, and move freely as they would like, but be in a smaller area, but still be together but apart in a needed way. So that's just one thing that we do.
That's a really good idea. And we do have a little room that you can be in and watch the service, so you're still part of the service, but it's like the family room. So it's also kind of known as the cry room. And like, I know in one case, crying babies set this one individual off. And it's also been dubbed the fragrance-free room for the, it's sort of a catch-all room. But I like the idea. I think what's important is that the individuals have that chance, if they feel like they need a little bit of a break, like to be removed, they can do that and wander freely, and like that's okay. And I think at our church, like that's very okay. Like, you know, if you need to walk out, and like nobody's going to say, what are you doing out here? Like, it's, you know, that's very okay. But I like the idea of like streaming into a room that's maybe more sensory friendly. Ryan, what do you have for me? Thank you, Sarah.
I was going to kind of attack it from two different angles. Being that they're 19, you know, and on the autism spectrum, again, I don't know them from anybody, but one of the things that we found success with those folks that are, you know, not quite youth ministry, not quite, you know, fitting in or wanting to fit in with the adult crowd, is plugging them into service in the church, you know, finding a unique spot where they're gifted and they can contribute. So one would be, you know, potentially service opportunities. The second idea that came to mind as you were talking took me back to my children's ministry days. And I was thinking about how, you know, we had this group of kids, you know, they were too old to fit in with most of the children's ministry. They weren't old enough yet to go to youth ministry. So that's kind of the emergence of this preteen ministry where, you know, you kind of separate out the 3, 4, and 5th, you know, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. You know, depending on the size of your ministry, I've seen there's church in Kentucky that we work closely with that has a specific teen ministry for their special needs ministry, and they're seeing a lot of success and growth in that, just because they're able to you know, separate out from the children that are obviously much younger, but yet aren't ready to necessarily move them on to the adults. So I think that concept can work, just depending on size and how many folks you have in that age group.
That's great. Thank you. I know the service piece is really, really important, being able to serve and using, you know, kind of leaning into your gifting and serving at your church. And that's why it's going to be the subject of our disability ministry video roundtable for the month of May. So please, I want all of you back and join for that conversation, because I need to learn from you. Also, yeah, I think where I'm kind of struggling is, well, two things. First of all, even though in both cases, the mothers have reached out to me as the director of the special needs ministry. Like, these are individuals who, you know, probably wouldn't, I mean, and this goes, you know, this is part of a whole conversation that's going on right now, but, you know, would not label themselves as being in the special needs ministry. And so I want to create an environment, help create an environment where they can really fully participate and be in community and be able to worship. And so that's kind of, you know, the other thing I'm struggling with. Yeah, Doc.
So Beth, I've had two groups just like that I've set up. I've done one for teens, I've done one for adults, and what we've done, we've in our service, we've reserved the back 2 rows for our class. So we would come in and we'd worship with the rest of the congregation. So they could be in there for that. We'd have headphones or earplugs for them, there for them for that. And then we were there for worship, and they were able to be there with a corporate body for that. And then after worship, there'd be prayer before the message and that and announcements. And that's when we would leave. They would usually announce from the pulpit that, you know, our special needs minister would leave. So that would help answer any questions when people, you know, if we had anyone that would yell or were a little loud, they'd like, oh, that's cool. Okay. And so that one brought awareness to us as well. And then we would go back to a room where we'd have our own class where, again, most of the time we'd go ahead and use, you know, Ryan's material, the ability ministry. It's fantastic. It's all adult focused. And we'd then have a class just for them. And depending on who we had several times where we would have several who were very high functioning, then you address it for them and do it on levels that they're able to do. And that worked very, very well for us. We did have a couple who just could not handle the worship. It was too much for them. So we did just like Sarah said, where we would have back in our room, we could stream the service in there for a few of our friends who just could not handle that and do that. So they could still feel like they were a part of that. But that worked real well for us on that part, and allowing them to feel like they have their own group and that they're themselves, but then, you know, helping them out as they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we do have that situation. I think for these 2 particular young men, and I don't know them well, and I've only met one of them, but I think being part of the, you know, they go with their parents, and I think that's where they need to be. Their extreme level of anxiety is what's prohibiting them from like fully participating. And so I don't know where I'm going with this, but I know there's hands raised. So we've got Barb and then Moto.
So my question, 2 things. One, I like to call this living in the borderland. And I consider myself to be a parent of someone in the borderland. So, and maybe not to this extreme, but when you say they probably wouldn't identify themselves as having special needs or disability, that's something you really have to respect. And so my question is 2 things. One is, can you stream your service into like the foyer area so that they're not going into a separate classroom? This is like just a quieter space anyone could sit in. So they still, if they need that break, they can go there, but they're not feeling like they're classified. And then my second question is, do you know exactly what the barriers are for each of them? So is it that they just can't handle the worship, but they could go back in for the rest of the service? Or do you have particular ideas of where the struggles are?
Yeah, and I don't know them well. I know that there are some sensory issues that lead to like extreme anxiety. So I'll work with these families a little bit more, but I think, yeah, and we do have a spot and I know the one that I've met has spent time in that spot. So I know, so that's a really good possible solution. Moto.
Hi, I'm Gail, a rep from Cleveland, Ohio. And
now I recognize you, Gail. Sorry, your name says something else, so I didn't know you. Now I recognize
I know. I don't know why it says Moto, but it's a new phone, so maybe that's why. But I was thinking maybe these families could have a Bible buddy, a young adult around the same age that's service oriented, that has the ability to be empathetic to them and to show the family and the participant that it's okay if they need to get up or walk away or whatever, but have them be with a quote unquote someone without autism that would become their Bible buddy, for lack of a better word, someone that can meet and greet the family, show them around the church, let them know where they can go if it gets too hard, listen to the parents. Parents say it's time for us to get out, have a place for them to go, and ask them if they want to go back. So I'm thinking a Bible buddy might also be a way to go.
I love that. Thank you. And so with the one I was just introduced to the mom yesterday. So like, I literally, don't know anything about the family, but the other one, they are very interested. She wants her son to participate in a men's service project that's happening this coming weekend. And so she was wondering, like, with his extreme anxiety, he doesn't like to do anything without her being present. So, I mean, she was basically saying, like, can she, come along to the men's work day thing? And, we said, of course. But also there's a guy in his 20s that serves in the special needs ministry that just, immediately I thought, oh, wow, if he could come alongside this young man, he's going to volunteer at this work day anyway. Like, wouldn't it be cool if they kind of were buddied up together during the work day? So we're really hoping, we're kind of trying to make that happen. But that would be kind of like the Bible buddy idea that Gail shared. And, like, ideally, this kind of thing will just happen organically. And, we're kind of all in community and we come alongside other people. And that's what I would love to see happening, just so we can help these, and in my case, it happens to be two 19-year-olds, be fully engaged in the life of the church. But wouldn't that be cool if we were all just doing that with each other and, helping remove some of these barriers? Al.
I'm Al from New Jersey, where we hosted Inclusion Fusion this year. I intentionally picked this place because they are starting out an inclusive service. The pastor or priest of the church, they spent like $8,000 to wire their fellowship hall and get a big screen TV for a room just below the sanctuary, the same time for, is basically, teenagers and young adults, because Young Life Capernaum is basically feeding into this church. And so it's an opportunity for this church to aim at the young adults and high school kids, and hopefully after that. But so the 19-year-old, that's really interesting to me, those ages, because other churches, a lot of kids I know, children, but this is a lot of teens, young adults that are coming, and we'll get more, I think, as well as it gets more known. So it could be an opportunity for you at Bay Pres to focus more as an outreach for the young adults and teenagers and things like that.
I love that. Yeah. And because word spreads, right? Yeah, I love that, Al. That's a great idea. Yeah, I'm just, my brain is just like, my wheels are spinning right now because you guys are giving me some great ideas. Catherine.
Yeah, so, talking about kind of, reaching out to that ministry leader, that early 20s ministry leader, and, kind of making him aware of this individual who might be coming, I call that sort of thing greasing the skids. I mean, I think, anybody who's been a parent has probably done some of that, but I mean, it absolutely applies in this kind of scenario for people who, have that high degree of anxiety or whatever it is, so that they can actually become part of community with just a little extra help. It doesn't mean, perhaps, to the same extent that we typically would think of with disability inclusion ministry.
Yeah, good point. Thank you.
Okay.
So,
hello.
Oh, hi, Sylvia. How are you?
I'm good. I've only been going.
Sorry. We're on 2 pages now, and you must have been on my other page. Sorry.
That's okay. And when you get old, you almost forget what you're going to say by the time folks get to you. But a couple of things. We have a social skills group that meets only one Sunday a month during the service time, and parents can come and the participants will go. Sometimes they do like to go to the praise and worship part of the service, and then they come into the social skills group. But in conjunction with this, I had another young lady who was interested in this young male person. And the male person wasn't interested in her. And she had a major meltdown. And her mom sent me notice that she was having these problems. And I suggested to her to let's do a social stories book where we walked through the whole process of developing a friendship and having a relationship. And there were pictures. And I did this also with participants who were going for baptism, to help them understand the baptism process in our church, from the point of getting out of your car, taking a picture of the front of the church, going into the church and taking everybody step by step, where the parent could 2 weeks to almost a month sometimes just continue to repeat this social story with them as to this is what is going to happen. Now you tell me what you understand about what is going to happen so that they can have that story embedded. And it works okay. And I have to walk through with the individuals that they're going to come in contact with because of the symptomatology of individuals with autism, that they are so structured to timeframes. And this is what you said was going to happen, to make sure those things happened and put in the little variances that could potentially happen if they, if something changed for them or whatever. So that's what we kind of do.
I love that. Social stories are such a powerful tool. So many of us are visual learners, and just having that and then, giving it to the individual or the family so that they can, reinforce that at home. There's lots of good situations that, social stories are good for, lots of situations that social stories can be really helpful. So yeah, Bronwyn's saying she thinks her entire church could use a social story about regathering in person. Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, so I think there should be an example of a social story on the Key Ministry website in the church, for churches section. If there's not, I'll make sure that I get that up there. Yeah, that's a really good tool, and something that works for a lot of individuals, a lot of students, regardless of, what their situation is. I want to share from the chat, just to go back a little bit, because we were talking about serving. So Catherine had suggested, and again, we're going to have a whole roundtable on this later this month. But once you know their interest and or giftings, find an adult who can be their buddy or mentor as they get plugged into a real responsibility. That's a really good suggestion. And Ryan said, we, meaning Ability Ministry, has created a gifts assessment to help identify where is a good fit for service in the church. So I will definitely be checking that out. So he gave the link in the chat for those of you who are watching this later or can't access the chat. It's at abilityministry.com. And I'm sure you can search for it once you get there. I'm not going to read out the whole URL. All right, let's see. Wow. Oh my gosh, it's almost time. All right. Does anybody, I feel like I've been hogging the content today. Anybody else? I'm scrolling through our screens. Yeah, Doc.
Yeah, I just want to throw out one last thing, quick invite for everyone. We've got the Wonderfully Made conference coming up in October. It's going to be both in person and virtual, but this is our final week for calling speakers. So if you're interested in speaking, whether it be in person or virtually, you can submit a proposal. Go to wonderfullymadekc, just the initials kc.com. Again, wonderfullymadekc.com. Put in your proposal, whether you want to be in person or virtual or both. We'd love to have you. We got 15-minute, 40-minute, and 70-minute speaker slots. So both for family tracks and ministry tracks. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for that reminder. Let's see. Anything else? Yes, Christy.
Hi. I'm good at copying, so I'm copying Doc. We're going to have a fun run in August to start off the kind of transition or the move up time for our students, so they get to move up a grade. And so the Saturday before, we're going to have a lap around the church. It's, you know, we're going to do that and just kind of try to encourage them that, hey, this is a new, there'll be a few changes, but you know, this is something to celebrate. And then also, we're going to have a dance party on June 5th, socially distanced. I don't know who's coming, but we're still going to do it. And then we're starting an exercise class in May. And so that little by little, maybe some of the families can come and be assured that we're socially distancing and just see what happens. So.
That's awesome. We're all coming to your dance party. That sounds like fun. That's great. Thank you. Anybody else? Looking around. All right. As far as Key Ministry goes, Catherine and I are like coming out of the Inclusion Fusion Live aftermath. So we're slowly emerging, and we will have some more things on our event schedule soon. Just a reminder that we do have our monthly disability ministry video roundtables. And as I've mentioned several times during this particular roundtable, we're going to be talking about serving and service opportunities and the importance of it and just ideas. So that'll be that's always the third Wednesday of each month at noon Eastern. Catherine, anything else? Not really, no. Okay, but so be on the lookout. We'll get some stuff up there soon. And we will still continue to do these idea shares. We will be taking July off because the first Monday in July is like July 5th, and probably a lot of you won't be here. So, but we will be here next month. We'll be here in June. So thank you. I really appreciate you guys. Today was super helpful for me. I appreciate all the contributions to the conversation. So thanks for being here, and we will see you next time.